Today we're going to take a look at some of the most exotic 12-gauge slugs ever imagined. And the amazing part is they were all created by our viewers. This is Jeff of TAOFLEDERMAUS, and today we're going to take a look back at some of the brilliant designs our viewers have sent us. The first design comes all the way from Russia by a viewer named ALEXI. This is essentially an extreme penetrator bullet scaled up to a massive size of .675 caliber and made out of brass rather than copper. Now, brass is denser than steel, but it's also a little bit tougher than mild steel. And the results are it just penetrates everything really deep. Now, the 4-flute version of these slugs did pretty well, but in all honesty, we weren't pushing these that hard. Now, the extremely Russian penetrator, it performed quite well, even when we didn't push it hard. The penetration was just tremendous. And this round would probably be perfect for bear defense. Big bear. Now, when we tested the 3-flute variety, well, we pushed these things to their max. These were traveling over 1,600 feet per second. Everything just worked out better. The velocity was higher, but also our spin rate and stability was a lot better. And of course, the energy transfer was much, much higher. Now, Greg had brought out this ridiculously long piece of pork, and we shot that thing, and it just turned it inside out. And that was one of the many things great about working with Greg. He would just bring out this random stuff to shoot, and it really made the video. Now, the Mach 71 slug from Kyle, who lives in Wales, that was a very successful video. Now, they actually travel around Mach 1.5, but they resemble the SR-71 intake. That's why he named them that. Now, I guess it's safe to say it now, but Kyle kind of got into trouble with the law in Wales just for sending us these slugs to test out. And honestly, it was a law that nobody really knew about, and the video did so well, he was getting recognized on the street by people, and eventually everything worked out and he didn't have to go to prison. Out of the blue, we received these slugs from Jay, and they're an absolute masterpiece in machining and engineering. And like everything people send us, none of it's ever tested. We test it, and it's the first time it's ever tested, and these things performed incredibly well. Now, with so many pieces, there's a lot that could possibly go wrong, but nothing did. Now, Greg brought out this giant can of beans, and it just made a great target, even though a lot of people were saying, "You're wasting food." Now, the rods from God actually refers to the god Zeus hurling lightning bolts from the heavens. And of course, a lot of people thought we were being blasphemous by mentioning God. Nope, that's not how it works. Now, because each of these slugs took hours to make, Jay told me that if he was to sell them, they would cost over $120 each. Now, in case the rods from God didn't work, he had a backup plan that he called the Durahill. It's a little simpler design. I think it's heavier, but still uses all those long roll pins in the design. The Durahill did quite well. Here it drove all those roll pins about 3/4 of an inch into that piece of aluminum. Think of how much force that takes. Now, when hitting a softer target like this head, well, the roll pins would fragment out, cause just incredible damage. Now, Jay may just be an amateur machinist, but his work definitely rivals many weapons manufacturers. Now, Brian has sent us a lot of slugs. I still have a stockpile yet to shoot from him. The Needler is mostly a non-machine slug, so it's a little different category here, but it sure worked brilliantly. Brian has proven over and over that you don't have to be a machinist to make cool shotgun slugs. Now the resin he used to cast all this stuff in kind of turns into broken glass when it hits, so you got to think about that too. That's kind of terrifying in itself. And this may be one of the most beautiful gel shots we've ever filmed. Yep, a double detonation occurring inside the gel block. That's very rare to even get one. Another brilliant design is the Countersink, using a Chinesium alloy metal, still very tough. Yep, actual countersinks embedded in that resin jacket. The countersink had tremendous penetrating power on pretty much everything we shot it at, including this stainless steel diamond plate. No, it's not aluminum. And yes, it easily penetrated our 30-pound lead plate. By using a resin jacket, Brian is able to put all kinds of just unusual objects in there, stuff that people have been asking us to shoot for years, and we finally did it. Over the years, we've had hundreds of people suggest shooting a socket, and finally, Brian made it happen. A 7/16 proto socket apparently is the perfect diameter. Now, a 7/16 socket is what you use after you've lost your 11mm socket down in your fender well somewhere, right? Now, it took a lot of research to find that perfect diameter, but luckily Brian didn't have to modify these in any way. They were just the perfect diameter. The socket slug would be a very expensive option, but it sure did well. Now, Evan has contributed a lot of stuff to us, and here is his Lug Nut slug. He'll often use discarded items, saving him a lot of money in the process, and usually it requires turning them down to the right diameter. On these tests, we filled that hollow cavity loosely with chalk, and the idea was to prove that we weren't actually getting any airflow going through the center because these things are flying at a supersonic speed, and there's a bow shockwave in the front that prevents air from flowing through it. And at longer distances, the powder would just get slung out from the spin of the bullet, and it made a really neat effect. Another design that impressed me was his Worinator, made out of industrial Acme thread. They were just a giant chunk of steel for the most part, but were very accurate and just delivered a lot of just pure brute force. And it had enough force to drive itself about 7/16 inches or 11mm into that big chunk of aluminum, or aluminium if you want to be fancy. Another design we could almost call the Russian roulette slug, but Evan called it the Revolver. It uses 3 nail gun blanks. The main body is actually made out of a DC motor armature that he also found in the trash. I believe came out of a printer. And when hitting a hard enough target, the laminations just turned into little ninja stars. Yikes. Now, the 3 blanks don't shoot anything backwards. Instead, the energy takes the path of least resistance and blows out the side walls of the blanks. And this actually caused the laminations to splay out. Kind of terrifying looking, really. Tim Hamilton started out sending us prototype slugs, a lot of oddball stuff, and eventually started his own ammo company. Now, the Rook is just a prototype, and I don't know if he's ever going to sell it. I think he should, because these things functioned really well. The Rook really worked impressively. It would make a great hunting round, self-defense round, just all-around anything round, really. But like many of the other contributors, Tim started out as just just send us some weird stuff to shoot, and we try it. A lot of the stuff failed, and he learned from it and improved his designs over the years. Now, we have no shortage of suggestions from viewers on what to shoot, but very, very few of them actually take the next step and actually produce the slugs themselves. There's many, many hours of work behind every slug that we shoot, well, except for the socket one. Thank you, everyone who has submitted slugs to us. Many hours of work, all destroyed in a millisecond.